Look, I'm gonna level with everybody. I'm really, really hungry, and I don't know how much energy I have to get through this, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it anyway. The NFL season is not far away. I do love the takes on multiple different websites, blogs, sports-related content of, I keep telling myself to watch preseason football. I am even more miserable after I watch preseason football. Now, I was paying attention slightly to the Bucs and the Jaguars preseason game, mostly because Blake Bottles, he can get his name back if he stops bottling every throw. And you also probably saw Rick already do a video on how Blake has bottled it. And probably the quarterback job, which leaves the Jaguars in not just limbo, but disarray. Because if Chad Henne's your guy, I don't know how far you're going with Chad Henne. I don't know what the ceiling could be. And it's not like the Jaguars don't have some weapons, but this clip ain't about the Jaguars, London's home team, as I should refer to them as. It's about Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston, there's some talk already, and I'm happy I caught this before I sat down to do this clip, because I was gonna go along with the theme, is Jameis Winston ceiling an MVP? I do think it could be, but then I started seeing like all the mainstream guys started doing, is Jameis Winston gonna win MVP this season? And I think that's ludicrous. Not completely out of the question, but ludicrous in general. And part of the reason is because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line, which is 30th according to Pro Football Focus, with like leeway to go up a couple spots if they can sync and the chemistry is there, and just like anybody in the NFL, if they can all stay healthy. What's notable about Winston was his first half. He came in there, made one of the most remarkable, did not count interceptions I've ever seen in my life, besides his foot and his ass were like half an inch above the ground, and he still fluck it. Is that a word? Flung it? Fluck, no. He flucked it, okay? F-L-U-C-K-E-D. Not a curse word, can't demonetize me, YouTube, so take that. And he threw it like 15 yards and it fell into the Jaguars' hands. Still remarkable, absolutely remarkable. So on top of that, the important part about Jameis Winston is he got better last year, even though his line got worse. He was sacked 8 more times than he was the year before. 35 times he was sacked in 2016, 27 in 2015. He also went from 22 touchdowns to 28 touchdowns, and that also came at the cost of 3 more interceptions. So he's on that borderline of being a 30 and 15 guy, 30 touchdowns, 35 even, with the weapons around him. Let's not forget, Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not surround Jameis Winston with what the New York Jets have. The Bucs' success is going to be coming from their ability to make their bad losses go away, because they've proven that they can win tough games. Last year they won week 1 at Atlanta, week 11 at Kansas City, and week 12 versus the Seahawks, right? At home against the Seahawks. But they dropped games. Week 3 against the Rams, they dropped against the 49ers, and they lost to the Bears. All 3 of those teams should be beatable, especially in Winston's 3rd year, where we're thinking that he should be taking a major step forward. I do think 35 touchdowns and 15 or less interceptions is that step forward, but that's just statistics. Leadership-wise, you can tell he's amped to be around his teammates, and he has a lot, I would say, of he's become more mature in his role. I watched back the 4 clips that I was a part of when we talked about Jameis Winston to make sure I remembered exactly where I stood on him, and it was always pretty much on the fence. When Ben Mank was ripping him for saying "effer right in the pussy," he wanted Jameis Winston to be suspended for that. I thought there was really nothing wrong with it, just because it's just the silliest, dumbest thing I've ever heard. Besides, it wasn't at anybody, it was just a ridiculous moment where he stood on a table, and to get suspended for that, although the NFL would probably suspend you for that over, I don't know, beating your wife, but that's all besides the point. And then I look back on the clip where Jameis Winston was absolutely thrown to the wood chipper over his message at the local elementary school that he was at for 5th graders, where I said multiple times on that clip, we're analyzing a 5th grade speech where his message wasn't wrong, it was the words he actually chose. Sorry, his intent wasn't wrong, but the words he chose was a train wreck. But in terms of actual football ability, aside from the extreme immaturity that was going on earlier in his career, I think he's possibly just past that now, and he's grown into his role and understands that he needs to take control of his team and lead them. But that's all the outside narrative. In terms of playing football, we know Jameis Winston is capable of being one of the better quarterbacks, if not one of the elite quarterbacks going forward after the era of whenever the hell Tom Brady and Drew Brees retire at 47 years old. 2017 schedule is just not nice to Jameis Winston and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, though. It's like if Murder on the Beat is there. It's not nice. Versus the Giants, versus the Patriots, at the Packers, at the Vikings, twice against the Falcons and twice against the Panthers, which are Panthers and Falcons are division opponents. In terms of the division in itself, the Saints you can just immediately cross out of the playoffs. Look, even if Drew Brees were to throw for 8,000 passing yards, the Saints defense is so atrocious still after like 13 years of them having a bad defense, and especially against a division with the Panthers, Bucs, and Falcons. I just don't know if it's plausible. I don't want to count anybody out, but Drew Brees has been throwing Archie Manning-style numbers, and they're close to putting bags back on their heads, the fans, because it's either win 50-48 or get blown out 37-10. The offense has always been there, but they have no defense. Their defense is worse than the Bucs' projected offensive line. So the Panthers and the Falcons are both interesting subjects as well in terms of the NFC South and what my predictions will be for it, because we're going to start doing a bunch of these videos, and I figured I want to do it here and today and now. I think the Panthers get better. I think the Super Bowl hangover is real, and I think it will affect the Falcons too. Panthers overhauled the defensive line. They got faster on their defensive line. Their 12th ranked offensive line, according to Pro Football Focus, is a major help for a guy like Cam Newton. They added Christian McCaffrey, who's an immediate impact weapon. Yes, he's obviously always had extreme flash to his game, but we'll see just again, same gravity conversation. You can't let him in the open field. He will make you miss. It's a matter of all the things that will get him set up to be in the open field. And Cam Newton's ability to find Christian McCaffrey when he needs to early on. But even more important than McCaffrey is Bradbury and Daryl Worley, who were both rookie defensive backs last year on the corners last year. They were replacing the Josh Norman void. And Josh Norman, once again, not the best defensive back in the league, had a great season with the Carolina Panthers that led him to the Washington Redskins. And once again, it was shown that a lot of these great defensive players are a product of their defensive system. The defense works even more as a unit than the offense does. So guys like Bradbury and Worley, who were rookies immediately thrown into guarding Julio effing Jones twice a year and Mike Evans twice a year, and amongst the other top talented wide receivers, you're going to get beat. But with a year under their belt, you would think that they're going to only get better. That type of competition doesn't make you worse. You want to be the best, you have to beat the best. So I think they're coming back strong. And they added Deshaun Hall, who is a defensive back coming out of the draft. So the standings predictions. Sorry, Falcons fans. I think the hangover's real. I think that their offense is still all together, but Shanahan, I'm in the same boat, was the orchestrator. He was the maestro. I think we probably saw the best season out of Matt Ryan that we're gonna see. And while last year for MVP, it was absolutely worthy, 28-3 in the Super Bowl is not something that's gonna help their cause. They might be hungrier to come back and win, and I could be proven very, very wrong. But I think they're 9-7. I think the Panthers and Bucs go 10-6, but the Panthers finish above the Bucs. I think that they have all the pieces there with a gambling head coach like Riverboat Ron Rivera. And we like gambling head coaches because the guys that go for two, the guys that go for it on fourth down, more times than not are rewarded. Blackjack Del Rio, Riverboat Ron. Eventually, if we do it right, we can turn the entire NFL into a riverboat gambling trip, and it would be great. Bill Belichick sitting there at the blackjack table. Hit me. Hit me. Hit me. Always hitting. He'd hit on 20, undoubtedly. And he'd get an ace, that too. Saints 6-10, and that's generous. Some people think the Saints are gonna go worse than that. I really do believe. I think the Bucs are taking the next step. I don't believe that they're there yet, but they should be able to get a wild card playoff spot with a 10-6 record. I don't think it's enough to win the division. Did I have any other notes? Any other notes? Yeah, it's a murderous schedule for the NFC South, though. They all have. That's why I'm saying, like, the Bucs can't lose to the bad teams this year, Because if they need to throw, if they are going to, of course they're going to lose some games. When they lose some of those games, like you need them to come against like the Packers and not drop the ones against the Rams or the 49ers. But we know that they're capable of competing with all of them. And so are the Panthers and so are the Falcons. I don't think overall though, I don't think a team wins more than 10 games out of those three and any of them lose less than 9. I think they're all jumbled in there because they play each other so much too. So that's the NFC South. Is the first of the real NFL talk on the channel as applied to famous Jameis. By the way, he had a 7.2 yards per attempt last year. There was 4 quarterbacks with 8.0 or above. And shockingly, I did not know Kirk Cousins was amongst them. Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, and as we mentioned before, Matt Ryan. So like, favorite, subscribe to the video, follow the video, follow Jacory in the booth. Somebody almost made a yearbook quote about him. I sent him a text message. Oh yeah, Jacory's gonna be in yearbook soon. You wait. We'll see you next time.